Hello, guys. Welcome to Daddy and the Don. Just me today. No Graham. He's busy with work commitments. But obvious bit of news: Patrick Vieira sacked. Roy Hodgson today has been announced as his replacement, which again has got a few Palace fans ruffled. I'm going to just go through what people think, whether it was worth doing, whether it was fair on Pat, whether Roy is the right man to come in and replace him, and just a bit of analysis, really. So we'll get into a few of the comments. I'll say my piece, have a bit of a rant, have a bit of a cry. So if you're into watching full-grown men in Palace shirts cry, this is the right place to be. And for that, we've got a few comments to get through. So Graham, the Jon Jones, Roy has easy fixtures, so likely to end up being the right call, although I don't agree with Vieira second. Yeah, that's spot on, mate. Shouldn't have sacked Vieira. Roy will probably end up getting the points because it's an easy run in. And yeah, 100% agree with Graham Jones. Not often that I say that, I must admit, but yeah. And Sports Carnage, not Roy Hodgson again. Yeah, exactly. Most Palace fans probably agreeing with you though, Munsey. So those of you that don't know, Sports Carnage, that is Munsey, previously Munsey Talks, previously of the Sports Capital, rebranded to Sports Carnage, so head over and check him out. So just getting into the cuts of it. So Roy Hodgson, he's the man on everyone's lips this morning. He's come back for a second stint to save Crystal Palace, even though we're in 12th place, still 3 points clear relegation. Pat was sacked before the hide into nothing that we were going to get against Arsenal at the weekend. So for me, stupid timing, international break, and like we said, that was just a free hit against Arsenal. I don't know, Steve Parish, perhaps he's got something to answer to for me, because sacking Vieira after that run of fixtures is not fair for me. It doesn't sit well with me. I think Vincent Kompany came out and said it as well, that he doesn't agree with it. Fair play if you don't win X number of games, but if you're playing just the top half of the table, and most of those teams hadn't lost for a very long time, it's harsh because Pat hasn't had the opportunity to win the easy games, which Roy will get the chance to now. So just another comment now. So Manny, afternoon, mate. Paddy is better off away from that club. They're welcome to Roy. Frankly, a huge step backwards. Yeah, agreed. You've got to feel a little bit for Paddy. Maybe they're going to try and give him the reins for next season, because I know he's literally, since he retired, he's done nothing but coach at Crystal Palace in the youth setup. Done pretty well, to be fair to him. So I'm not against Paddy having a go, but I just think to kick out Vieira and then give him or Roy or stroke both a go is a massive step backwards, as you're saying. Like that last year under Roy, he did keep us up. He did what it said on the tin year after year, but it was getting boring. It was, the last year was utter dross, and we'd moved away from that. Pat played some good football last year. We just keep Arsenal as the narrative. So just got our asses handed to us this weekend. But I remember this time last year, us beating Arsenal 3-0 under Vieira, and Arsenal fans admitting to me that we absolutely handed your ass to you. Couldn't cope with a high press, couldn't get out of your own half. And you take any Roy game, that would not happen. And just at the weekend, it didn't happen. We didn't. People are saying, "Oh, we scored, we had a shot on target," but that was only like after going 3-0 down, and we had to. If it was 1-0 or 0-0, we'd have done nothing. We wouldn't have even tried to score. It's what's worrying me. We've got easy fixtures, but what's our aim to stay up this season? We're going to try and draw 10 games 0-0 and stay up by a point. It's not the way forward for me. I think if Pat had played this run of fixtures coming up, he would have won 2 or 3 of those games guaranteed, and then that leaves you a couple of draws to stay up, which I think would have been fine. Another one from Manny. So also, what's the situation with Gaito and Johnston? How long will Whitworth be in goal for? Maybe letting Jack Butland. Yeah, exactly. So Jack Butland, he got frustrated because former England keeper couldn't get a game at Palace. He's ended up going on loan to Man United, where again he's not going to play. So yeah, it is a strange situation there, I must admit. So going back in, so Patrick Vieira, was he sacked too soon? So I'm just going to run through a few games here and see where Steve Parish actually thinks he is as a chairman. So on the 31st of December, we beat Bournemouth away from home 2-0. Bournemouth are currently 19th in the table and have lost 15 games this season. So quite a straightforward win, quite an expected win. We then lost at home, I think it was on the 4th of January, to Tottenham. So first game of 2023, we lost at home to Tottenham 4-0. It was 0-0 at half-time. We had all the chances in the first half, then just got spanked in the second half, capitulated. But Tottenham currently sitting fourth, lost 9 games. So could have said if we'd drawn that game, it wouldn't have been as bad. But losing to Tottenham isn't anything to be having to go at a manager of Crystal Palace over. You're expected to lose to Tottenham. I know you've got to have ambition, but you've got to know where you are as a club. Chelsea away, we lost 1-0. It was in the middle of Graham Potter's worst run. I think he went on a 10 or 12 game winless streak. Us being the charity football club that we are, we gave him a win. Again, it was only a narrow loss. Pat, he doesn't really get spanked too much, but he doesn't go all-out attack. And I think, yeah, you could say everyone else managed to beat them. But Chelsea away, you're not expecting to get points from that as a Palace manager. You're not expected to win that game. So again, if we'd got a draw, maybe that would have been okay. But again, nothing to cry about. Then home to Man United, didn't really do anything in that game. Scored a fantastic last-minute equaliser with Michael Olise free kick. So drew 1-1 against Man United, who were on fire at the time. Third place at the moment. They've only lost 6 times all year as well. So what are we expecting of ourselves? Are we going to beat Man United? No. Newcastle, another one. At home a week after, we drew 0-0. So they're currently 5th with games in hand, can be in the top 4, got to the Carabao Cup final, and they've only been beaten 3 times as well this year. So are we that arrogant that we think we should be beating them as well? Again, not for me. Played Man United again. This was at Old Trafford, a place I think they've only lost 1 game all season. Again, we lost 2-1. Had that shambles with the Casemiro red card for the 12-man brawl. But again, at Old Trafford, you're not penciling any points there. So where Steve Parish is saying, oh, this is a terrible run, all these games have gone through there. You're not looking at a game where you're thinking, oh, we should be penciling that in for a win. Then we've got our rivals Brighton at home. Again, we drew 1-1. You might be saying you don't want to be drawn with your rivals, but then look at what Brighton have done this year. They're 7th. They've only lost 7 games all year, and I think a couple of those were Potter at the start of the season. A couple of those were when De Zerbi first took over. They drew with Liverpool and then lost 3 in a row before he sort of got his act together and turned it round again. And they'd gone on a massive unbeaten run since the middle of October. I think they only just lost that a couple of weeks back when, was it Fulham that beat them in the last minute when they should have really won. But no other team has beaten them since October. Why all of a sudden are we expected to win that game? Again, 1-0, it's not the worst thing. Played away to Brentford, drew 1-0. Annoying, it was a 96th minute equaliser. This is the only criticism I have of Pat. When he's got a lead, he sits back and he just stops attacking. He stops everything. He takes strikers off, he puts extra defenders on. He soaks up pressure and we concede last-minute goals. But Brentford only lost 5 games all year, sitting in 8th at the moment. It's not the end of the world to draw 1-0 away to Brentford. Circumstances, yes, but on paper, no. Week after that, we draw 0-0 with Liverpool. They've lost 8 times this year, currently sitting 6th. People were looking and saying, oh, Brentford turned them over. Fulham have done well against them. Brighton spanked them. But why are we comparing ourselves to teams that have only lost a handful of games this season and had a better run than us? So as much as you hate it, Brighton, they're a better run team at the moment. They're buying players for like 5 million, selling them for 60 million. This is what well-run clubs do. Brentford, they wouldn't be wasting money like what we wasted money on. Benteke, 30-odd million. Mamadou Sakho, best part of 30 million. Both went on frees, both wasted, both did fuck all for us. Brentford will find players for 5 million, sell them on for 20, use that 20 to go and buy another 3 or 4 players. Did the same thing with Will Zaha. We were holding out for too much money from Arsenal. They went and got Nicolas Pepe instead. We're losing on a free transfer now. And that 80 million, you could have got a whole new team. Then looking, Aston Villa, we lost away 1-0, but had a red card. Decore got sent off. Aston Villa are 12th, so it's probably the easiest game we've had there where you could look at it and say, well, maybe we could have got some points from that. But we're down to 10 men. What's he expecting? At 1-0 down and a red card, we're not going to turn that game around. So just rub that one off and say, had a red card, deal with it. Man City at home, are we really expecting to beat Man City? I know we did last year, but you can't just keep going to the well and saying, oh, we'll turn City over. Doesn't happen. Lost 1-0 away at Brighton, I've already mentioned. they're flying this season. As much as it pains me to say, they are flying. And again, no one else has beaten them since October. And then you've got Arsenal. This was a banker of all wins. No other result was going to happen here other than Arsenal thrashing. And they've only lost 3 times all season, currently sit first. So where in that list of games did Steve Parish think we were magically going to get 5 points out of that? I think Pat's actually done okay. And you're going to look at the next set of fixtures. Leicester, and those teams I just read out, every single one of them is above us in the table. So playing teams above us every single week takes its toll. Going to play Leicester at home, 17th. They've lost 16 times this year. Easy on paper. Leeds away, 14th, 13 losses. Southampton away, 20th, 17 losses this season. Everton at home, 15th at the moment, 14 losses. Wolves away, 13th place at the moment, 15 losses. West Ham at home, Tottenham away, Bournemouth at home, Fulham away, Nottingham Forest at home. That is an absolute fanny fest of points, if ever I've seen one. So many winnable games, and we're playing 8 of the last 10 against teams below us in the table. Why did they choose to set Pat? Week before the international break, would have 2 weeks to maybe have a meeting with him, give him an ultimatum, so you've got 3 games to save your season, give him Leicester at home, Leeds away, Southampton away, and if you get nothing from that, if you lose all of them or only get a point, whatever, you get nothing out of that, say, right, you go, we've got Roy Hodgson in the bag, get him back in. That would have been my thought process, but if Roy comes in and he stumbles now, we've just wasted that. Pat would have still had the momentum. And it's a thing like Zaha's been injured for most of that time as well. So I know he was pants at the weekend, but if your star player's not there, we had no shots on target for 3 games in a row. All adds up. Oh, there you go, Muncie. I did say it was Muncie, but anyway. Going back to so I just think it was too soon. They've jumped the bullet a bit, and it could just come around to bite me in the arse. As much as I don't want Palace to get relegated, but it would serve Steve Parish a lesson. It would serve him right if they went down, because he's just jumped the gun on this one. I think there's something deeper has happened here. I think it's maybe the Sean Derry incident hasn't sat well upstairs, and they've just fired from the hip and said, right, they've had a dust up behind, and his ego won't allow him to keep patting the job. And in all walks of life, I've been like a retail manager for night shifts in the past, and you'll have guys that you might not get on with them, but they might be your best man in a position. So instead of spiting you in the kind of, he knows to spite your face, you play them, you put them in that position, and because you don't want to ruin your reputation. So if I hand over a shop in the morning and say, oh right, I moved people off of the section because they annoyed me or because I wasn't happy with them, I'm still responsible for that shop in the morning. It's the same with a football club. If you've got a player and you bench him because he's broken like a wall or something, or he's spoke to you the wrong way, you've still got to get points. So you've got to weigh up whether you can still win and instill that discipline. Same for Parish. So if he's got something he's not happy with Vieira, rather than just sacking him, he can just impose like warnings, sanctions, and say, right, got 3 games, cut all this crap out. We want to see results. And then if Pat decides to leave, he walks, doesn't he? But I think he's just tried to flex his cock a bit on this one, and it could come around to bite him on the arse. So the no win in 2023. That I've run through the fixtures. There's not one easy winnable game there that we've had in 2023. So this gets fired around a lot. No win in 2023. It seems like a cop out just to sack him on that. And to me, it feels like they're just using that as the main reason to keep out. So it's like if you're playing like Barcelona and Real Madrid every week in Spain, get 4 games in a row, you have to play them double header. You're not going to say, oh, you haven't won a game for a month, so get out. You're going to, like what Vincent Kompany said, he's had a hard run, he's now getting the easy runs. But oh, wait a minute, let's just sack him before he gets a chance to come through. So going back to Roy, I did like Roy. I haven't got a problem with him. You got to remember with him, he came in at a time that was really difficult for Palace. We'd been churning out managers year on year. So like we had like Tony Pulis, did really well, kept us up, didn't sign a new contract, went. Sam Allardyce came in, did a job for us, left the year after. So we were going through managers year in, year out. He came in after the Ronald de Boer shambles, steadied us, gave us what we needed really, which was stability, keep us in the Premier League, keep moving. But it was becoming, and like he's 75 years old now, so it was becoming a bit of a dinosaur in the last year. And I think it was the right time for him to leave. Where like now, to bring him back, he was quite bad in his last run at Watford. I didn't want to see him come back, to be honest with you. I think if he'd gone to an upstairs role at Palace and just lived out as a director of football or ambassadorial role, that would have been perfect for Roy. But he went into a hiding to nothing with Watford, played 18 games as a caretaker manager till the end of the season. He won 2, drew 2, lost 14 games. If he does the same sort of thing here, that would be like, 2 wins, 2 draws, lose 6. We'd probably go down with that if we only get 6 points out of these last 10 games. That'd be us done. So, I don't know. And you're looking at the fixtures, I know they've played a lot less games. So, Patrick Vieira played 74 games for us as manager. Won 22, draw 24, lost 28. So, gives you a win percentage around the low 30s. With Roy, he played just more than double more, so 162 games, 154, drew 36, lost 72. So lost a lot more as a percentage, but probably had less draws in there. He's either won or lost. But win rate is about the same. Points per game, funny enough, they both get 1.22 points per game. So you're looking at, Roy, dinosaur, boring, won't get you anything. Against Pat, better football, moving you on. They're getting the same amount of points. So I see both sides of it, like they can both get you up. But to say that Pat was doing a shit job then, they're only saying the 20% win ratio this year. But look at it as the whole year. He plays these games and he wins like 3 or 4 games. His win ratio is back up above Roy. So it's going to be interesting. He needs to hit the ground running. And for me, it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm going to get behind the team, but I'm probably just going to be watching the rest of the season with my eyes closed, just with the hope that we get enough points to stay up. And like I said, if we draw 10 games to stay up, that's just going to be a horrible watch for me. If we got in there, Chris McMahon. Parish made the right decision. Vieira overrated manager, and you weren't playing good football. Team needs a boost, fresh ideas, and players will respond to Roy. Palace will be fine. Good decision. I get what you mean, mate. I do really get what you mean, but when you say like freshening it up, it's freshening it up with a 75-year-old man that should have really retired like when he did. So I do get that you can freshen it up, but it's like, look at the country. We haven't ever gone back to a former prime minister and said, "Oh, you messed it up last time. We got rid of you last time. Can you come and run the country again?" We've never done that as a country, so it's the same with a football club. You shouldn't go back to something you moved away from. That's just my opinion. So Roy will keep them up with them fixtures, even Jesse Marsh would. Yeah, and that's another one, G. I was a bit worried we were going to get Jesse Marsh in. So, yeah, as much as like everyone's slamming Roy, I'm not overly keen on it. I'm not saying I'm against Roy taking the job. I was against Pat getting the sack more than anything. If anyone's going to come in, you probably would begrudgingly say, yeah, get Roy back in, because he knows the players, and we've never been relegated under him. He gets 1.22 points a game, which at this moment in time would keep us up. It's just whether the players. I saw a stat on Sky Sports News this morning. We've run the least kilometres in the Premier League this year. Average over a game, 101 kilometres. I think the top is 115, Spurs maybe. But the next team above us, Nottingham Forest, 105, massive gap. So for some reason, our players aren't running around. Whether that's they're not running for Pat or Pat's told them not to run. I don't know what it is. But when players aren't running around, that's never a good sign. So a majority of Palace fans are not happy. Speaks volumes to me. And again, G, this is not anything against Roy. There's not an agenda against him. It's more just the fact that we moved off of him. We did it the right way, but like how Alex Ferguson went out, it was arranged that he would step down, he'd maybe go upstairs or look for another job, and he'd leave on the right terms. So we stayed up. He'd be remembered as the guy that brought us stability, the guy that brought us like 4 years of Premier League, mid-table. People are saying, "Oh, you've only played for mid-table," but he kept us up comfortably all 4 years, and it was just it looked like he was feeling the strain in that last year, and he needed to finish it off. So it's more about sacking Vieira because he was meant to be the new Arsenal manager, wasn't he? Arteta was struggling at the time. They were saying Pat was doing well at Palace, and they were saying, "Oh, he'll be gone in a year," but Arsenal will come and nab him. So Steve Parish arrogantly would have not. He'd have tried to block that if Arsenal were coming for him, but now he's sacking him and getting Roy Hodgson back in. So it doesn't make sense, but it's what it is. Maybe Conor Gallagher. He was in at Chelsea. He's sort of that player in the middle there that we don't have at the moment. We're sort of too defensively in the middle. We've got wingers. We've got defensive midfielders. We haven't really got a good number 10. So maybe that's something that we struggled with there. So have you gone forward since Vieira took over? Would love Palace fans to answer. All I'd say on that, Chris, is like points-wise and position in the table, it's pretty much the same. But when you watch Palace now, not the last couple of games. The last couple of games have been really poor, but you've got a chairman that hasn't backed him in the transfer market since the first window, so a season and a half ago. Got 8 new players in, got a whole fresh team. Then last January, all he did was give us Jean-Philippe Mateta on a permanent, which I didn't really see the point in. And then this year we got Decore in, Richards, and was it Sam Johnson free transfer. So we haven't really backed there, and we did nothing in January. So I think the football was a lot better. We were more attacking. Like I said, the Arsenal game last year, we tore them apart. This year, utter pants, men against boys. So yeah, I think we've gone forward in terms of style of play, and it is sort of like a process. So a bit like how Arsenal stuck with Arteta, I think Palace should have stuck with Vieira on that one. So the Don, they haven't gone backwards. Yeah, great. So we haven't gone forward, but we didn't go backwards. We're in transition. So I think if he'd stayed for like a 2-3 year project, you would have seen it go slowly forward. But then there's a ceiling. Like how high can the club like Crystal Palace really expect to go? Like maybe like a good cup run, try and get in the Europa League or something. It's not like we're going to be challenging for the title. So I think people are seeing teams like Fulham, Brentford and Brighton doing really well this year, and they're just saying like, "Oh, why can't we be like that?" Because we've been better than Brentford for so long. But Brentford are a really well-run club. Brighton are a really well-run club. Palace are not a well-run club. We're a stingy club. We don't back the manager. We don't give them a kitty. We turn down money for players that we should be selling for that price. So we miss the boat every time. So got a good academy. But that's not a good academy. Isn't going to win you trophies and give you ongoing success. Manny there. So I disagree with Chris. Vieira's been hamstrung with a lack of goals this season. I liked watching them last season, even if it was at Arsenal. Yeah, agreed. So we did play really well last year, but I think Pat does have to take some of the responsibility for the striker option. So he did have money to spend last season. He spent it on Edouard. We then spent it on Mateta the following January to keep him in. So I don't class any of them as an out-and-out goal scorer. They're all sort of like the same, and it feels like we haven't actually got. You look at Fulham; they've got Mitrovic. You go to him, you say, right, he's your goal getter. If he's injured, Carlos Vinicius comes in, but Carlos Vinicius isn't as good. Look at Brentford. So you've got Ivan Toney. So last year you had a guy, was it Mikel Fors or whatever his name is? He was on the bench. For us, it feels like we haven't got that number one striker that everyone's got. That's what IU as well. We haven't got one where you go, right, he's your main striker. He plays every game. If he's injured, this one comes in. We're just playing like musical chairs with 3 rotational average strikers. We need to go out and just bag ourselves a goal scorer. That's all we're really missing. We haven't got anyone who's like big and strong enough to hold the ball up. A bit like how prime Benteke used to be. But if we'd had the Benteke that played for Aston Villa, that'd be perfect for our team at the moment. But we just don't have that player in our team. And that's why I think that Pat needed to be backed, but he also has to take some of the responsibility for the players he did bring in. He should have probably got another striker, and we should have tried to get Conor Gallagher on loan, even this January. It would have been better for us. So Pat didn't get backed for this season, even for me. Yeah, he didn't. Following the narrative for me, fellas, tell me what Vieira has done to credit him staying in the job. They've been awful and playing negative football. Right decision for me. Parish White Call, my rant over. Again, I'm not going to disagree with you on that one, but what Pat did deserve was a stab at these easy run of fixtures to prove that narrative wrong. If he'd played these games and played the same tactics, didn't score any goals against Leicester, Leeds and Southampton, you can say, right, there you go, it is what it is, get rid of him. Roy would still be able to come in. We'd still probably not be in the relegation zone, even if we lost all three of those games. It would probably all be on about the same sort of points. So no real damage would have been done. But I think Pat would have got a win out of that, and you'd have seen maybe it would have looked a little bit better on paper. So you think Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, we won all three of those. We're basically up. So yeah, I get what you mean, Chris. But and then Graham the Jon Jones. Agreed, they've been awful recently, but I feel they would have turned it around. And again, that's the point I'm just trying to make here, that Pat has been on a bad run, has had a lot of hard games. So you look at the games we lost. We've only really lost to Tottenham, Chelsea, Man United, Brighton, Aston Villa, Man City and Arsenal. It's not shocking though, is it? It's not shocking to lose to those teams. And then you look at the teams that are coming up. So Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, Everton, Wolves, West Ham, Tottenham, Bournemouth, Fulham, Forest. It's night and day there. That is a fanny fest of points. And I reckon he would have got a couple of wins out of that, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. And you look at just a couple of those games, like the Brentford one, for example. Twice against them this year we've been winning, and then looked like we should have put the game to bed. And we've let them back in at the end. We've let them score last-minute goals, and we've just made a joke out of ourselves. Oh, I knew this was going to come. So you had Chelsea, mate. There was an easy game there. Yeah, as much as I'm taking the Chelsea on paper, so at the moment they're 10th. They've lost 9 games this year. But I will concede at the time, Chelsea were getting turned over by everyone. And like I said, the charity club we are, we let you have that win. So anyone that's going through a lack of confidence, strikers that aren't scoring, teams that haven't won for injury, come to Selhurst Park and we'll just give you 3 points. That's what tends to happen. So Graham's agreed. Mum, Potter out. Are you still Potter out, or are you turning around on that one now? Is he steadied the ship a bit? Or does it depend what he does against I think it's Real Madrid? When Graham was right. Well, he hasn't actually been sacked yet, so when he gets sacked for being shit, you can have when Graham was right. He also said, just not wanting to call you out on this, he also said Brighton were going to come 19th this year, so we're worried about when Graham was right. I think we'll replace that with when Graham was wrong. But yeah, so that's partly my rant over, guys. I'll go down to the verdict. So to summarise, I'm not happy that Pat was sacked. I'm not overly excited that Roy's come back in, but out of the managers out there, I wouldn't want someone like Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard. Probably wouldn't even want Hodgson, because I don't really fancy getting beat a couple of times 9-0. So I think, given the choices, it is a safe bet. You've got to get behind them. I've got no personal agenda against Roy. It's just disappointing to go back to the same well again. And where Graham was saying about Palace fans all pissed off, my inbox has been inundated with Brentford fans, Fulham fans, all my mates just laughing at us, saying, "Oh, back to Hodgson, oh God, relegation looming." It's embarrassing to have clubs that you're considered to be a bigger club than all laughing at you at the moment. So enjoy it, guys, because you've all got the upper hand at the moment. But there you go. No, I want him gone, mate. If we had Parish, Butler was gone. Yeah, probably right. It'd probably gone after the first 3 games. I saw something funny though, that it was only like a rumour I see on BBC Sport one time, that Potter was apparently 1 game away from the sack, and Todd Bowley wanted that De Zerbi from Brighton, and it was just making me laugh. I mean, you just took the last Brighton manager, that went really well. I know you're going to take the guy that replaced him. Like, they're just going to say, oh, here you go, you can have Potter back. But yeah, that was a bit of a strange one. So who would you have in? I know you want Thomas Tuchel back, but who would you have in then, Chris, if you get rid of Potter now? But yeah, and just touching back on my verdict. So I'm sort of having to reluctantly settle for Roy taking the reins again, and we'll just get behind the team as always. Hope for the best. I'm hoping we just get a couple of wins in these first easy runs and we don't leave it till Bournemouth, Fulham, Nottingham Forest last 3 games of the season. Sure, Roy will find a way to grind some games out, but could be plan B and 10-0 draws. There we go. Would you take Potter if we sack him? I probably wouldn't take him for this last stretch of games because it's a bit of a different mission, isn't it? It's like a survival mission where I think Potter would be good for a rebuild. So if a club needed, where you're going to have time. So if it was like we stay up and we get an influx of money and he gets to build a team again, I'd say, yeah, maybe give him a chance. But I wouldn't want to take him now and throw him in for the last 10 games of the season because a new manager will take time. The only positive we've got from Roy is he's not going to take much time to settle down because quite a few of the players he still knows from his time there. So, yeah, I think overall it probably is the best appointment we could have done, but it was, for me, just silly to sack Pat when it did. Could have given him 3 more games. So I would take Graham Jones as manager, flip-flop his ideas and opinion, follows the narratives and copies everyone else's opinions. Wow. Excellent. Also, just while you're on it, Chris, Graham told me he didn't back any favourites at Cheltenham, so I just need that confirmed before we get off here. I'll hang on and finish the verdict while you're putting that reply on. Yeah, so if anyone else had a manager that they thought should have taken over rather than Roy, just bung it in the comments there. But as I was saying, all the managers that have been sacked this year, they've been sacked for a reason. And I don't think there's a manager out there that I would place, not necessarily over Roy, but I wouldn't sack Vieira to get any of the managers like your Gerrards, like your Lampards, like your Hasenhüttls. I just think he was doing okay. It did get really bad with the no shots on target in a month or whatever it was, like for the whole of February. But you go through spells like that, and like I said, I just think international break coming up. If there's no international break, maybe you would have had to make a judgment call. But international break coming up, you'd have had 2 weeks to get in there, have proper showdown talks, and thrash out an idea. Like I said, Graham Potter, you're on the subject, Chris. Graham Potter has had more than enough time in that instance to start getting results, and he's started to slowly get results. So, same could have happened for Pat. There you go. He backed the top 3 in the market every race. I have 7 witnesses, mate. Excellent. That's. I'll have to do a show just on that. That's made my millennium. That has. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this one up. So, as we said, overall verdict. Sad to see Pat go. Wish him all the best. Happy with what he did to a point. Roy, don't want him to tarnish his reputation, but we get behind him. Hope he keeps the Palace up. And I'll have to hide my head in shame if we do go down with Brentford and Fulham running around in the top half of the table. But thanks for watching, guys. Don is threatening to do a couple more lives for Premier League previews when the Premier League is back on the 1st of April. So keep an eye out for those ones. And we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.